Richard's DB9 was saved, Jeremy's F-Type was saved, and today we complete the Trinity, and it doesn't go well.
Hosed with engine oil. This is a very ill Maserati.
Earlier this year, we showed that Richard Hammond had saved his sand job Aston Martin in all its Mauritanian glory, with that car now sitting for you all to see in the DRIVETRIBE exhibition at the Haynes Motor Museum. Then came Jeremy's Jaguar, now owned by our pal Dan, who worked at HMS Engineering, next door to the smallest cog.
And now we found this, James May's Maserati Grand Cabrio. You guys may recognise this location as the place we managed to pick up Martin the Subaru, because this is the secret Grand Tour compound. This is where all the vehicles are kept when they come back from a trip. Now this car has been bought by a member of production and it has sat here ever since. It is now for sale though, but before it leaves, we get to give it a rag.
The Sand Job Grand Tour Special was all about the trio having their own go at desert spec performance off-roaders, like the 911 Dakar, Lamborghini Starato, and the Morgan CXT. And it seemed that all three were very happy with their creations. The Aston Martin was £22,000, the F-Type was 25 grand, and the Maserati was the most expensive of the three at £26,000.
So is this the best? Has this car weathered the Mauritanian desert better than the other two? We'll give it a rag around the compound soon, but first let's look at its scars, starting from the front. I think it's fair to say that this Maserati was sand jobbed worse than the other two. The interior especially, if you've seen this special, you'll know what state that's going to be in. But even here, the amount of oxidization going on from the front to the back of the car is pretty mad. Everything aluminium has started to go green. This Trident actually looks really cool. It would be a shame to wash that off. As with all three cars, the first thing they seem to do is underbody protection. Let's see how far this one goes back. Okay, so it's pretty much to the bulkhead, and there's some pretty serious bars under there to keep it in place. But what it does do is hold up all the sand and salt up into the car. And I can see, we won't get it up on a ramp today. Oh my, that is brutal. But the amount of corrosion under there on all the suspension arms and even some of the chassis, it looks savage. I gather that Rally Raid here in the UK prepped these cars, put all the rallying bits on it, and just like Richard's Aston, it's got these massive off-road tyres, bigger wheels and bigger front brakes. I think these are actually the exact same tyres that were on Richard's Aston. It looks like they will catch in the arches a bit, we'll find out later. Although I have been told that despite these things being rally prepped, when they arrived and they went straight into the full-on Mauritanian desert, they essentially immediately sank. So they actually had to change the route to be on much more substantial solid roads rather than some of the spectacular desert that they aimed to go to. Both the front mud flaps have been torn off, they've completely sheared. The rears are in place. This one on this side is kind of half snapped off, but both the fronts have completely departed the chat. I love the Maserati triple vents here, and yes, they've started to go green as well. James says in the special that these things are essentially chopped up Maserati Quattroportes. I find that a bit odd. Is it not just a Gran Turismo with a different roof? Or maybe a Gran Turismo is also a chopped up Quattroporte? I don't know. Interestingly, the rear brakes are standard Maserati. So I guess you'll need to think about the fronts because they're doing most of the work. The rears can just chill as they are. The wheel arch extensions on this car are at least slightly clean compared to the F-Type. They were pretty horrendous on there, but sadly just above them you've got the drilled holes for the pedalo that all three cars have, and the pedalo system has really scarred this rear arch here. I wonder if that can bolt off for a new owner and just put a new one on, or you keep it as is. It's a Grand Tour car. What's a really nice addition, I wonder if this came with the road car to start with, is this carbon spoiler. That's quite nice. It's taken a hammering, but it's not too bad. Also, James May's not really into modifying cars. He likes to keep them standard. I imagine this kind of irked him a bit, but on the show, he was very much the cheerleader for it, saying it was the best car. In fact, all three guys agreed that this was actually an improvement aesthetically compared to the original car, and I think I agree with him. It actually reminds me, these Grand Cabrios, it reminds me of the Fiat Dino Spider, car from back in the day that is a beautiful thing, and this has very similar lines to it. Underneath at the back, it looks like, yeah, exactly the same as Richard's Aston and Jeremy's F-Type. We've got this kind of subframe extension that comes out that was used to well, hoist the cars down that slope, but it only ended up being Jeremy's F-Type. The amount of corrosion is savage. This is just steel all back here, completely unprotected, and it is being completely eaten away. It's the same with the side exit exhaust as well. They've just barely been protected, and they would probably last another few months, and then they wouldn't get through a UK MOT. You guys may have noticed from the start of the special, this bonnet never really fit the car, and that's because it's a custom fiberglass job. They wanted to get as much airflow into this engine bay as possible, so they've made this custom job to have all these vents pouring air into this engine bay. That Ferrari-derived V8. I've never driven one. I've only ever heard it on Clarkson DVDs, on Top Gear. I can't wait to have a go in it. I bet it sounds phenomenal. I love the look of it. Yes, it's a plastic plenum, but with that trident and the crisscross of the V8, it's really far back as well. Fair play to Maserati. A lot of manufacturers would have it sitting out here, but they've properly engineered that to go way back in. This engine bay is covered in Mauritanian sand. It'd be really satisfying to clear it up. Maybe the new owner wants it to stay like this though. Maybe they want it as a museum piece. Again, any exposed bit of metal, aluminium or steel has started to corrode. The amount of oxidization on the front of the V8, it's absolutely covering every millimeter of it. Let's hope a pulley or something like that hasn't corroded too much and it all still functions. Oh God, hosed with engine oil. Has it got coolant in it? You have to have a fair amount of confidence to buy and drive a convertible Maserati that's been rally prepped and has a racing stripe down the middle. However, if you're a guy and you're a similar age to me, maybe slightly younger, slightly older, the chances are you've had your confidence dented due to your hair potentially not looking its best. So, to get back in the game and live your best life, today's video sponsor Manual is here to help. Never mind a Maserati, driving a convertible of any type when you're bald takes some balls, mostly down to the cold. Put that back on. Manual is a UK men's healthcare company challenging the outdated notion that real men shrug their shoulders and carry on. Their hair loss treatment plans help prevent further hair loss and aid in regrowth. And you can start seeing results within 6 months. Don't take our word for it, let the customer before and afters speak for themselves. With the ease of completing an online questionnaire, Manual hair experts will recommend a personalised treatment plan with the goal to help regrowth and get your confidence back. If you don't see results, Manual has a full money-back promise. So what is there to lose apart from a bit more hair? You'll get access to a clinician who will monitor your progress, adjust your plan based on your needs and goals, and offer 24/7 support via video calls and WhatsApp whenever you need. It got too late for me, virtually all my hair is gone, but it's probably not too late for you. So it's time to get your confidence back and drive as many convertible sports cars as you want. Click the link in the description below to see if Manual can help you out, and to get 55% off your first hair loss treatment, use the discount code DRIVETRIBE55. Do you want to hear the worst sound in the world? Oh! Oh, it hurts. Oh, it's going so slowly. That shows how much sand is in this mechanism. Thank God that's over. I think it's fair to say that the Maserati had the best interior of all three cars. It's beautiful cream leather, but it shows the sand way worse than the other two. It is savage in here. Now, you guys that watched the special will know that as James was going around looking at the manuscripts in that village, Jeremy and Richard filled this car with sand, like literally up to the windows. I remember watching it thinking, why? It just wasn't quite necessary. I kind of got the whole, like, the village is disappearing, so they made out as if the car had done the same thing, but the poor engineers that will be part of the production team that have to then sort that out and clear this car out. There is sand everywhere in here. It's got into every nook and cranny, apparently even like under trims, literally everywhere in the car. If you were to dismantle it, we'll have sand pouring out of it. The door pockets are full, genuinely full of Mauritanian sand. Again, how does the UK government allow this stuff to happen? What if this dust had stuff in it? There's no biohazard stuff that, you know, places like Australia are famous for. Doesn't seem to happen here at all. Now I know when these cars come back, they are essentially pieces of television history, but this car would make for an amazing video for detailing it. The amount of just hoovering out all this sand, brushing it all away, and the before and after would be incredible. Let's have a look for some artifacts in this car. In the back, it's mostly just production stuff, trim that's been taken off to get cameras in place, zip ties. What is that down there? Oh no, wait a minute. Sunglasses of some sort. Lenses. So the sunglasses have clearly gone back with James, but he's left this little pouch of lenses. There's 4. James, if you want these back, give us a shout. One thing I've learned over the years is James May has a very weird driving position. He's got really long legs, so you're miles away from the steering wheel. He genuinely drives his cars. I drove his Tesla for a bit as well. He drives it in sort of West Coast rapper mode. He's way back. I've got the roll cage. Shall we test the roof? I think there's a reason it's up. Let's test the roof. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Don't want to start it yet. Although that's very, very good sign. Open. Come on, Maserati. Don't break. Roof operation and standby. Okay. It at least locked back into position. That could have been bad if it went and then didn't go back down. Now we got a little hint there, but as with all 3 cars, will it start? It's alive! Oh, and it sounds good. Immediately sounds better than the Aston and the Jag. Oh, yes. I've never driven a Maserati. Should we drive this one? Let's drive this one. So the V8 in this is putting out 434 brake horsepower. What doesn't help though is it feels like the right rear shock is completely gone. It sounds like what Richard had in the Capri. Feels like it's going to come through the body at some point. It's completely disconnected, or that's what it feels like. Oh God. If I was to put a bet on what would be wrong with this car, having come back from Africa, I would say suspension done, bushes completely shot, and probably overheating. Tick, tick. And the temperature gauge, I mean, it's right in the middle now, but I feel like it's only gonna go one way. Gonna keep an eye on that. Do not want to cook this V8. Oh God. Lots of noises that I'm not used to hearing. How do I turn around?
I'll give you a push, Mike.
Yes, please.
I think she could.
So, I drove it about 200 yards up this hill. The suspension was banging like nothing else. It got up to temperature remarkably quickly, and then when I come and do a 3-point turn, that is a lot of oil, like a lot. And it's literally sprinkled all over this field. If you look here, there's a very definitive line of oil. So that tells me that once we take that under tray off, it's going to be full of, I'm going to guess, engine oil. It did start to smoke a bit before I switched it off. I think like Richard's Aston, James's Maserati is a bit broken. I can hear something sort of glugging. Yeah, the under tray is literally hosed with engine oil.
I quickly threw some oil into the Maserati and limped it back down the hill. Thankfully, there is a workshop on site here, so we threw the Mazda up onto a ramp to see what was wrong.
Okay, we're just low on fuel, no oil lights. Quick! Just heard some groans from... Oh, yes. Okay. That almost looks to me like an oil filter's hanging on for its last legs, about to come off. Oh my. It's pouring out of the rear of this skid plate. Pouring. Do you know what? I might take off my hat. I don't think that's going to fare well.
No. You know what you said earlier?
About the oil filter.
Come around there and have
Has
a
the oil filter just completely failed?
look where it's coming out of.
Ah, yes. So, does that mean the oil filter's corroded through?
It could be, or it might be loose.
Oh, there it is. Right.
Genuine filter as well.
While Dan is going to attempt to weld up the oil filter, I thought we'd have a little look underneath this car and see how it compares to especially the Aston, where we've seen up on a ramp as well. Apart from all the mud that I've managed to cake on it, do you know what? This Maserati is actually in better shape than the Aston. Somehow, it is less corroded. All of this additional steel bracing that's on it for sump guards and all that stuff, that is really, really bad. But if you took that off, it's not actually too bad at all, really. And this diff is really hanging down. That's, ooh, that's taken a hammering. That cooling fin from the diff has hit something hard at some point. And these straps here, we reckon were from when it was transported. They've just been cut and are just kind of sitting in place. But yeah, to be honest, it's all the additional Grand Tour stuff that's gone on these cars that looks worse for wear. Because it's definitely not been rust protected. The salt and the desert has just clung to it, and that wouldn't last long at all. No, it's leaking. Yeah,
That's dripping quite well now.
You tried.
What can you do?
Today has been quite dramatic, but at the end of it, it's a simple fix to get this Maserati sorted. And the guys here are straight on the internet to find a filter, they'll whack it on, and this Maserati will be back in the game. I guess the thing to learn from today is you need to be prepared for what you're getting yourself in for with an ex-Grand Tour car. Very cool, potentially a little bit sketchy. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I've been Mike, and don't forget to subscribe to DRIVETRIBE.
Thankfully, a few days later, I was sent this video by Dan. May's Maserati is back in the game, simply with a new oil filter.